For decades, Pluto was a ghost at the very edge of our solar system. A lonely wanderer drifting far beyond the light of the sun, once celebrated as the ninth planet, then demoted to a dwarf world. Pluto became a symbol of cosmic isolation, a frozen outcast forgotten by the warmth of daylight. But beneath its icy silence, something extraordinary was waiting to be found. When the James Webb Space Telescope turned its golden mirrors toward that distant world, what it saw shook everything we thought we knew about the outer solar system. Pluto, it seems, is not as dead as we imagined. Back in 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft made history when it flew past Pluto for the first time. For decades, astronomers had only seen it as a blur, a single pixel on a screen, but New Horizons changed that forever. As the first images arrived, the world gasped. Pluto was breathtaking. There were mountains of solid water ice rising like granite peaks, vast plains of frozen nitrogen that flowed like glaciers, and a delicate pinkish haze wrapping it all in a shimmering atmosphere. This was no lifeless rock. It was a living, evolving world. Scientists discovered that Pluto's thin atmosphere wasn't static. It expanded and collapsed as the dwarf planet moved closer to or farther from the sun on its long orbit. Its surface seemed to be renewing itself, erasing ancient craters far faster than expected. Something deep inside was generating heat. Something was keeping this frozen world alive. But then, the anomalies began. Hidden inside the data from New Horizons were strange readings. Instruments detected rhythmic reflections from the surface, faint pulses of light bouncing back from a region called Sputnik Planitia, the massive heart-shaped plane on Pluto's surface. These pulses weren't random. When researchers analyzed their timing, they found an uncanny ratio repeating over and over, 3.14159. The number pi, a mathematical constant found throughout the universe, but never before in reflected light. Some dismissed it as a coincidence, others blamed instrument error. But a small group of scientists inside NASA began to wonder if these signals were not noise, but a pattern. Years passed and public interest in Pluto faded. But in 2024, the James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in the sky, was finally tasked with observing Pluto once more. Webb can see in infrared light that's invisible to our eyes, capable of revealing the chemical fingerprints of distant worlds. When Webb focused on Pluto, the data stunned scientists. The telescope detected new compounds, complex hydrocarbons and molecular chains that shouldn't exist in such cold, distant regions. These molecules are usually created when organic materials are bombarded by radiation or internal heat, all signs of activity beneath the surface. In simple terms, Pluto appeared to have an energy source deep within. That was the first clue that something strange was happening. Pluto's heart-shaped region, officially named Tombaugh Regio, seemed to act like an enormous heat engine, cycling nitrogen and methane ices in a perfect, stable balance, almost as if the planet was breathing. Planetary physicists ran simulations, and the results were baffling. The balance between heat, pressure, and ice flow was too perfect. The system shouldn't be able to remain stable for millions of years on its own. Some researchers began to whisper, what if Pluto wasn't just geologically active? What if it was designed to stay that way? Then came the discovery that changed everything. In early 2025, during a routine deep scan of the outer solar system, Webb picked up a faint modulation in Pluto's reflected infrared light. The pattern repeated every 19 hours. When converted into audio frequencies, the signal formed a series of harmonic tones, rhythmic and structured like a coded message carried by light. Publicly, NASA labeled it background interference, but internal memos told a very different story. The same spectral rhythm appeared again, and not just from Pluto. It was coming from several distant objects beyond Neptune. Eris, Haumea, Makemake, all of them were emitting faint signals, pulsing in unison across the vast, dark expanse of the Kuiper Belt. At first, scientists thought this could be a natural resonance, maybe some kind of gravitational interaction between these outer bodies. But the timing was too precise, the frequency too stable to be a natural phenomenon. Then, one independent research team made a connection that sent chills through the astronomical community. They compared Webb's data from an exoplanet called Kepler 452b, a world more than 1,000 light-years away, and they found it, an identical frequency pattern. The same harmonic spacing, the same mathematical rhythm. Somehow, the same cosmic tone was repeating across worlds separated by unimaginable distances. Was it all just a coincidence or a connection? The implications were staggering. If these signals were artificial, who or what was sending them, and why Pluto? This tiny, frozen world, long dismissed as an afterthought, was suddenly at the center of the biggest mystery in human history. The theory that emerged was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. What if Pluto and the other Kuiper Belt objects weren't just planets and dwarf planets? What if they were something else entirely? A network of ancient, dormant relays strategically placed at the edge of our solar system. A cosmic breadcrumb trail left by an intelligence far older than our own. This wasn't just a signal. It was a symphony playing out across the stars. The rhythmic pulses from Pluto and its neighbors weren't just random noise. They were harmonizing with each other, creating a complex, layered signal that spanned the entire outer solar system. It was as if the Kuiper Belt itself was a single, massive instrument. And when researchers combined the signals from Pluto, Eris, and the others, a new, deeper pattern emerged. It was a complex waveform, carrying what appeared to be vast amounts of information encoded in light and frequency. The message wasn't just a simple beacon, it was a map. A three-dimensional star chart pointing not to a single star or galaxy, but to a specific point in spacetime, a coordinate. The math was impossibly advanced, suggesting a mastery of physics far beyond our own. The coordinates pointed to a location deep within the boat's void, a famously empty region of space once thought to be devoid of galaxies. But according to the signal, something was there, something was waiting. The discovery sent a shockwave through the world. Governments scrambled to classify the information, but it was too late. The data was out. Humanity was faced with an undeniable truth. We were not alone. And the evidence had been hiding in plain sight, broadcast from a tiny, icy world we had barely noticed. Pluto was no longer a lonely wanderer, it was a signpost. A key. What is the purpose of this network? Is it a warning? An invitation? Or something else entirely? The signal from Pluto has given us a destination, but the journey is one we're not yet ready to take. The beings who built this network could be millions of years ahead of us, their technology indistinguishable from magic. Are they peaceful explorers, or something more dangerous? We don't know. All we know is that the universe is far stranger and more crowded than we ever dreamed. Pluto, the forgotten planet, has reminded us that the greatest discoveries often lie hidden in the darkest, most overlooked corners of our world. As word spread through the astronomy community, the story began to fracture. Some experts claimed it was just data corruption, a glitch in the James Webb Telescope's ultra-sensitive instruments. Others argued the strange pattern was an artifact, maybe reflected cosmic rays or just background calibration noise. But deep inside NASA's Goddard Data Center, a small classified report was circulating. It mentioned something strange: persistent non-random modulation in outer solar body spectra. Officially, the files were removed for calibration review. Unofficially, many suspected censorship. What could possibly be so sensitive about Pluto? What could a dwarf planet, nearly 4.5 billion miles away, reveal that humanity wasn't ready to know? Some theorists started floating a shocking idea. What if Pluto is more than just a relic from the solar system's birth? What if it's a marker, a constructed body, or a modified world designed to serve as a beacon? Think about it, the near-perfect geometry of its heart-shaped plane, its strange atmospheric cycles, and the mathematical reflections in its light could all point to something intentional. If an ancient civilization wanted to leave a cosmic message, where better than the outer edge of our solar system, a place where ice could preserve it for eons, the implications were staggering. If Pluto and the other dwarf worlds are resonating together, it could suggest a vast, ancient network, a solar system-wide communication system operating far beyond our understanding. The frequency Webb discovered might not be sound or radio waves, but a kind of optical code embedded in reflected sunlight, just waiting for technology advanced enough to finally notice, And for the first time in history, that technology now exists. Of course, NASA denies any extraordinary findings. Official statements describe the anomalies as instrument sensitivity effects, but leaked notes from independent astronomers hint at something else. One document references repetitive geometric harmonics inconsistent with known natural processes. Another mentions spectral parity, signatures that look like controlled emissions. Simply put, the data doesn't behave like nature. Now, there's a fine line between science and speculation. Maybe it's all a grand coincidence. Maybe Pluto's strange light is just reflections off oddly shaped ice crystals, and the harmonic signals are just background interference. But what if they aren't? What if these rhythms are part of a larger cosmic pattern, a universal pulse connecting worlds across time and space? The same mathematical constants found in our DNA, in the rings of Saturn, and in the spiral arms of galaxies now repeating from the frozen edge of our solar system. If that's true, then Pluto might not be an outcast at all. It might be a messenger, a relic left by something or someone that existed long before humanity ever looked up and wondered if we were alone. Maybe the real reason NASA classified Webb's Pluto data isn't because it was meaningless, but because it was too meaningful. Because what they found challenges everything we thought we knew about life, intelligence, and our place in the universe. The James Webb Space Telescope wasn't just built to look deeper into space. It was built to look back in time, to find the first light of creation itself. But in doing so, it may have uncovered something else, a trace of intelligence woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. A whisper from the cold frontier, encoded in light, waiting for us to listen. So the question remains, what is Pluto really? A frozen rock, a living world? Or a signal, waiting for those who dare to decode it? The truth might not lie out there in the stars, but in the silence between them, the universe hides its secrets well. But every once in a while, a telescope like Webb lifts the veil and the darkness stares back. Don't look away. Subscribe, because the next discovery might just change everything.